listening to K.A.O.S. in Los Angeles.
All right. We are back here at Song of the Day, coming to you from the Rock Cave. And it is Wednesday. You all know what that means. Wednesday is Wanderlust Wednesday, where we present to you either a band you don't know, or maybe a song or a record from some artist or band that you do know. And I'm excited for today because I'm talking about this guy, Roger Waters. I have a penchant about talking about him, as you all know. If you've been following the Rock Cave since season 1, I am a big fan. So let's cover this record, and it's probably one that you have no idea. Maybe you've never even heard any of these songs, and that's why it's being featured on a Wednesday. We're going back to this date, June 16th. That's why it has to be today. June 16th in the United States, he drops his second solo record, Radio K.A.O.S. It was put out the day before, June 15th in the UK. This is the first album right after his official departure from Pink Floyd. He put out The Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking in '84 when it wasn't official. If you all remember that record with Eric Clapton, that was also an excellent album. This record, one of my favorite records of all time. It's a true story. I play this all the time to this day. I don't know if I know a lot of people who play this record the amount as I do, and I don't know how many fans I actually know of this record. And we'll talk about what Roger Waters thinks about this record, or at least so I've read. But thanks to WPLR out of New Haven, they would play songs off this album, and that's when I became a fan. I had the record, the cassette, the CD, you name it, and I listened to this thing front to back, the whole album, and I do enjoy it to this day. It's got the same themes that he had been choosing on and off through his career, going back to Dark Side of the Moon. You've got the Cold War, Margaret Thatcher, money and its effects on society, and just regular pop culture references in here. Let's talk about what this is about. Concept album, like I said. So let's try to cut it down in a nutshell for you. This is going to be hard. Let's do it. All right. This is a story of Billy, and Billy is a Welsh man who is mentally and physically disabled, in a wheelchair, can't communicate, and he has a brother who works in the mines. And his brother is Benny, and he loses his job because of market forces, and he's frustrated. And when he goes to a bridge after a night of pub crawling, and ends up dropping a concrete block off the bridge, and it kills a driver underneath, and he goes off to prison, forcing Billy to move in with his uncle out in LA, and his uncle Dave. And basically this is the story of what happens when he gets to LA and tells his story. There are a couple of things about Billy that are important. He's a genius, number one, and number two, he somehow is superhuman. He gets radio waves in his head, he can hear them, and therefore he figures out how to communicate via those radio waves, and also through a cordless telephone that was given to him by his brother, was hidden in his wheelchair. And he's able to reach out to computers, voice synthesizers, so he can speak. He can get on the air, on the radio waves themselves. He befriends a disc jockey named Jim on K.A.O.S. Remember, those stations start with K on the West Coast, and he tells his story about how he got there. It turns out that this is based a little bit on a true story. There is a true story out there. There was a Welsh taxi driver who was killed. David James Wilkie. He was killed by a concrete block that was dropped off a bridge by a striking couple of miners. So that's based on a true story. So that sounds like a depressing story, right? I mean, it kind of is. But the music on here, I do really like the songs on here. Also on this record, in 1979, he met a DJ called Jim Ladd, who was doing a radio documentary about the wall. This guy's out of LA, fairly famous for documentaries on the radio, and this is where he got this concept from, talking to him about that. And he used Jim Ladd on the tour for this record to introduce songs, comment on how it was going. They had all kinds of radio promotions where people would get to write in their questions for Roger Waters, and he would read them, and the people would be there and get their answers and that kind of stuff. What else can I tell you about this record? You got, for pop culture, you've got Ronald Reagan advertisements in here. You've got some Morse code. The album cover is actual Morse code, and there's Morse code throughout the record. The Morse code does actually say things. It says Roger Waters, Radio K.A.O.S, Who Needs Information. It's basically his name, the name of the album, and the titles of 5 of the songs on this record in Morse code. He did do this tour, like I said, it was only in North America, which is interesting. He did the last 2 shows in Wembley, but this was a North American tour only. I wish I could have seen it in 1987. Had I known, I would tell 1987 me to go see it, even though I've seen Roger Waters many, many times. That would have been a good one for me. But the tour didn't do as well as they had hoped. He had to use his own money to keep it afloat, and in the end figured it could not go worldwide. He did manage to recover, as you all know. All right, what are the songs on here now that we've talked about it? There were 4 singles on here, first of all. Also, another guest on this record is Paul Carrack. Remember, we talked about him, the man with the golden voice. Back in season 1, we talked about him. Lead singer or singer in the band Ace. Remember that song, How Long? Squeeze, Tempted, Mike and the Mechanics. He had a solo album, Don't Shed a Tear. He also sang Tempted to warm up some of the shows because he would be there. So that would be as the part of the Bleeding Heart band. So that's pretty cool, right? Your songs are Radio Waves, Who Needs Information, Me or Him, The Powers That Be, Sunset Strip. At the end of Sunset Strip, there's this banter back and forth about your least hated favorite fish is Soul, and Soul has no eyes. And that's J.J. Jackson from MTV saying flounder. I don't know why I know that. Home, 4 minutes, and The Tide is Turning after Live Aid. Those are your songs on there. The ones you need to listen to are Radio Waves, Who Needs Information, The Powers That Be, and Sunset Strip. I love Sunset Strip. Those are just some awesome songs right there. I want you to check them out. Don't give up on me. Check out these songs and tell me what you think. What does Roger Waters think? Interviews, he doesn't like this record. He thought it was too overproduced, too modern. And as a matter of fact, I don't think he's sung any of these songs on any of his tours that I've ever seen. Disappointment to me, one of the fans of this record. But he does not care for this record. So why am I hosting it? Well, it's on a Wednesday. You've never heard it. You be the judge. Listen to these songs. But I'm telling you, I love this whole album, and I love those 4 songs. So Roger, if you're out there are some fans out there. So hit me up. We'll talk about it. All right, enjoy your day. That's all I got for you. 7 minutes. See, we try to keep it under 5, but this topic cannot be done in that time. Looking forward to the rest of this week, and enjoy your day as usual. I'll catch you on the flip side.